You're tuned to the dirt.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found.
That's affirmative. He has evidence proving Bigfoot.
The search for the flying saucers.
You're about to explore another world, another universe with the likes of Ghost, Bigfoot, and UFO.
I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know what it was.
He is overshadowed by the energy from the world teacher, and the world teacher uses him and gives a blessing.
And all of a sudden, I realized that the banging is coming from my kitchen. Instantly, I froze. I was so scared.
They said they heard a disembodied scream, like a bloody scream, like something bad was happening.
And now, here comes your diva of the dark, Lori Schultz.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into The Dirt tonight. I'm super excited for this show because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite beings on Earth, and that is Bigfoot. And I want to thank Chris Singleton for being here with me tonight. I appreciate all the work that you do for The Dirt.
Whoa. Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Lori. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited because we have a special guest. His name is Ed Brown. He actually has his own YouTube channel that you can subscribe to and hear all kinds of great Bigfoot information. And it's called Big Truth Channel. Oh my goodness, on YouTube. I'm like, I keep wanting to say Bigfoot instead of Big Truth. But anyway, he's amazing. He's always posting about Bigfoot information. He's got a lot of great people that he interviews. It's a lot of fun. And I know that we're going to have some callers in tonight. A lot of people get stirred up about Bigfoot. And if anybody does want to call in tonight, the number here is 530-742-5555. And I was just wondering, Chris, just on a personal note, what do you think about Bigfoot?
Oh, I'm torn.
You're torn?
I'm torn, yeah.
Like torn to shreds by Bigfoot when you go camping?
Then I would know, right? Then I would know that there's Bigfoot. But, I don't know. I feel like if there was a Bigfoot, we'd have really found it by now.
Really?
Yeah, but there's some evidence out there that you're just like, okay, what is that?
That's very true.
That's nothing that we've ever seen before.
And so if you think about it, though, like, I know, can I say something personal about what you do believe in?
Sure.
Okay, so Atlantis.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever been there?
Have I been to it? Nobody's been to Atlantis.
Exactly, but
right.
You believe in that.
I do.
How did they hide Atlantis from you?
Well, I don't know. We don't even know where it is.
Okay, so when you think about how deep in the forest and how much land has not been explored.
Right.
Caves, caverns.
Right.
All the different ways. I mean, so many theories about Bigfoot, whether they maybe are even an alien species. Something to do with UFOs. Possibly they exist and live in rivers or down in,
Right.
I mean, when you think about all of that,
I've heard
now
people
what?
say things like Bigfoot is an interdimensional being that hops between the dimensions and just kind of pops here for a little bit and then pops somewhere else. And
yeah.
Who knows?
Okay, so there's a possibility that by the end of this show, you might be possibly a Bigfoot believer or at least fan. Or
Well, I'm not a non-believer. At all. No, I still think that there's a good chance that there is a such thing as a Bigfoot out there.
Okay, and I want everybody to know that Chris will not sugarcoat things. If he does not believe in it, he's just like, no.
That's
no,
true.
no,
Yeah,
no.
Some people are just crazy.
We won't even go into politics. Like, there's no way to sway him. And I won't say from which way to which. All I'm saying is he's very set in his beliefs. And unless you bring him some evidence or something, I think that if you believe that there's a possibility, it's kind of like that cereal when they go, that one cereal where they're all, Mikey likes it, right? Okay, it's one of those deals. If you think so, then there's a possibility in my book.
Okay.
All right, so let's get our guest on here and get rolling. Ed Brown, are you here with us right now?
I am. Hi, Lori. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for calling in tonight, and it's a Saturday night, and I'm sure you could be doing anything, and I just want to say that I appreciate you being here tonight.
Oh, I could be doing anything, but this is what I want to be doing the most. And let me point out that at the end of the show, we're going to have to ask Chris again.
Okay. I think that sounds fun because I'm always curious what Chris thinks because sometimes, you know what it's like in a radio studio, right? So across in the other room, I see Chris sometimes making faces, nodding yes, nodding no, and I'm supposed to just remain like undistracted or whatever. It's like I'm like, okay, so he doesn't believe that, and I'm like, well, speak up in the microphone, Chris. Tell us what you think.
Well, sometimes I don't want to get mean with the guests.
So in other words, you're a good guest because there's a possibility you might have some information that'd be quite compelling, not only for our audience, me, but also for Chris, which is impressive.
Good. Hopefully we'll get to cover everything. I know it's only a 2-hour show, but I could talk for hours.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And, we've got some people that are going to be calling in and telling us some of their stories. And so I don't want to put any more delay on this. Let's just get you introduced and just tell everybody how you got into Bigfoot, what you do on a regular basis, and, just a little background on why it is you love Bigfoot so much.
Sure. I mean, I think for me it's the allure of the mystery. I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film when I was a little kid. It had me entranced ever since. I've had the opportunity to meet and talk to Bob Gimlin, which was a pure treat. I mean, you talk about a legend. Great guy.
Yeah.
But on the everyday thing, I interview people myself in the Bigfoot community. I have 2 shows, along with my good friend over in Southern Oregon, Dan Lindholm, who runs Big Truth. It was his. This is basically his baby. I just help him with it.
Nice.
We interview. We have one show we call it Sit Down with Ed Brown, where we talk to basically the big names in the community, all the celebrities. I've talked to Jeff Meldrum. I've talked to Derek Randalls, Adam Davies, Cliff Barackman. The list goes on and on and on. And then the other show I do, we talk to just everyday people who have had experiences, and they tell me their stories and their experiences. Sasquatch Encounters is what we call that one. And
okay, that's what it's called. And so are both of them on YouTube? How will people be able to look at your show? I mean, maybe they even want to look at it while they're listening here.
Sure. They can go to YouTube, type in Big Truth, one word, BIGTRUTH, and that'll take them to the channel, and all of our videos are there. There's also some videos where my buddy Dan goes out in the field there in Southern Oregon, and he's got some amazing things going on out there that is really, really cool stuff.
It sounds so much fun. I mean, I've watched quite a few of your videos ever since, we kind of hooked up and on Twitter and everything. I mean, you can find information from you on Twitter, Google Plus, I mean, all over the board. So if you just want to Google Ed Brown, you will find a lot of Bigfoot information. It's a lot of fun. And it's just a pleasure because I think one of your interviews you were doing, I think it's somebody that I may have had on my show, but they own their own land. And they do all of their own Bigfoot hunts right on their own property and stuff. And I didn't want to say any names just in case it's not right. But anyway, I think I had him on my show last year, and that they have a lot of good evidence, too. They're a lot of fun.
Sure. Does their last name rhyme with mine?
Yeah. Exactly rhyme.
Great people. I mean, I've enjoyed I've had a lot of interacting with them. They've invited me out to their property. In fact, in July, I'm flying out to Oregon, and I very well may, if I can talk my girlfriend into it, go up and check out the property a little bit while I'm there. So it'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, I think it sounds like a lot of fun, too. And so, I mean, basically, now, you got caught up just because of seeing that video. What do you think about the video? For the Patterson video, do you think that's a hoax or not a hoax? I mean, Chris and I, we've had this conversation. He full on thinks that's a hoax. You're not on, Chris.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Chris, but it is not a hoax. That is a real animal. To this date, nothing has ever been proven to show it being a hoax. And believe me, it's a lot easier to prove it's a hoax than it is to prove it's real.
Well, because he was saying that the guy came forward and said it was him. But, I mean, I don't know how much investigating Chris did. I can't hear you, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there you go.
I got to hit the on button on my microphone. So what about the guy who was friends with the people that shot that video, who has that same kind of hunched over walk and claims to be the one in the suit wearing, in a essentially a monkey suit walking through the woods right there?
Sure. Well, let me point out first that it's been him and probably another dozen people who have claimed to be in that suit. But the gentleman you're referring to, I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
I can't remember his name either. Yeah.
Yeah, but he is. What do you think? He's like 5'11" or something along those lines. The creature in the film is based on, scientific proof. When they go in and they look at the exact same angles and things like that, they can decide. And that thing is like 6'8", so much. I'm sorry, 8'6". I got it backwards. It's about 8'6". So the animal in the film is much taller than the gentleman who tries to portray himself as being a hoax. And in fact, Bob Gimlin, who was there, of course, Roger Patterson passed away a few years later, unfortunately. But Bob Gimlin was, from my understanding in the story I read, and I'm not claiming this to be fact. I'm just claiming this is what I read.
Mm-hmm.
That he was offered $1 million if he would just say that was a hoax.
Wow.
And he said, he goes, I'm not going to do it. He's not going to lie. And if you've ever met this guy, you'll know what I mean. He's a class act guy, and I believe him wholeheartedly.
Okay, that is really cool information because I never heard of that he was offered money. And something, when somebody has a truth, something as big of a deal as that, and they know it's true. I mean, I've had experiences where if somebody told me, just say you're lying, just say you were lying about it, I'd be like, you know what? I would love to have that $1 million, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to say that what I saw was a lie. I refuse,
Sure.
And sure. I personally think that video looks legit. I really do. I think it looks amazing. I mean, just the way it moves and just like everything. You ever see people in a suit? They look like they're in a suit. This video does not look like somebody in a suit. Not to me.
Well, you can even back that up, and you can look at back in that time, 1967. That film was made October 20th, 1967. That particular film, and that creature, had that been a suit, first of all, it would be an amazing suit at that time because the material that it would have taken to make that kind of suit didn't even exist then.
I agree.
You look at the Planet of the Apes, which was made about that time. This thing looks more real than the creature than the characters in Planet of the Apes, which they did a great job on those.
Yeah.
But they're nothing compared to this animal, and in my opinion, it's completely 100% real.
I agree with you because look at Hollywood, all the effects they can do right now. But I'm telling you what, even when they do wolves, like in some of the, like one of the new movies, we'll just say that where there were wolves featured, they do not look like real wolves. And I'm telling you, this Bigfoot looks like a real Bigfoot. And it's just like, to me, why would those people, I mean, they seem scared in the video just a little bit. Like, it seems shady. Like, and people always go, you know what, why isn't there more evidence? There's a lot of animals and different creatures that we didn't ever find dead. You know what I mean? Or be able to capture alive. I mean, at least I for sure believe it. I think Chris is looking at it right now.
Yeah, I was looking for the guy's name. It's Bob Hieronymus.
Yes, Hieronymus, yes, yeah. Exactly. That's it. That's why I can't remember it. That's a big name. I don't know.
Okay, so, I mean, just your opinion on the Stacey Brown evidence.
Wow. Geez. Stacey, I've talked to Stacey. Stacey's is actually a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be 100% on board with that. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little on the fence. Talking to Stacey, I don't think he's actually lying to me. I just don't know that what he saw was actually a Bigfoot. There are some tells, I guess, in the video that would lead someone to believe that it's not real. Mm-hmm. But it's a cool video, and it's definitely something people should take a look at because it's very, very cool.
Did you ever see that one video where it was those kids and they actually were in another country? Remember, they were speaking another language. I'm not even sure if you saw this video, and I wish I had just looked at it right before, but it just came to my mind right now. But where those little kids are running around in the snow or whatever, and all of a sudden they see that, and they go running home, and they even swore on the video, and so they were really afraid for their parents to see the video just because of the fact that they had,
some bad language.
Yeah.
That was...
I thought that was a really great clip.
It really is. That's a great clip, and it was actually filmed in Russia, and it was very interesting. And I their reaction to it is, in my opinion, priceless. And like you, I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I know that there were some expletives used as they were running away. But yeah, great piece of footage.
I think so too, and I'm going to tell you what. You ever try to organize kids to do something like make a film like that? These kids were not like professionals, and that was professional, if you ask me. That would, I mean, because of the reality of it. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? There's no way that they could have all done that. There were no other footsteps before that, so they weren't practicing it. You know, because of the snow and everything, you would have seen that a billion footprints if they tried it and tried it and tried it. Like, to me, it just, I don't know. It seemed pretty real to me.
Sure, and I agree 100%. And there's actually a gentleman who, and I could be completely wrong here, but if I'm not mistaken, he's like the Russian equivalent to our congressman. And he actually went, he's a Bigfoot believer himself, and he went and talked to the boys. And this guy's like a really, really big guy. He used to be a professional fighter, huge guy. And he was basically, you know, trying to scare them into saying it was fake, and it didn't work. You know, he was like, you know, tell me the truth, you know, and they, no, it's real, you know, and they were scared to death. So based on that, I believe that would be an accurate video, yes.
I do too. I agree with that. And Chris should maybe Google that and see what you think while we're chatting here. So what exactly do you do? Like, do you go on any of these Bigfoot expeditions, or do you mostly just like talk about it on your show? Where is it that you stand in the Bigfoot community?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. I have been out. I don't consider myself a researcher of sorts. You know, I guess my role in the community would be, quote unquote, an entertainer. You know, I like to give I guess my personal belief is everyone has a right to their opinion, and they have a right to be heard. In the community, there is a lot of different views and ideas, and you guys touched on it a little bit during the opening. You know, and I don't necessarily believe everything I hear, but I believe that everybody has a right to tell their story without any ridicule or being harassed.
I agree.
And that's what I try to do. You know, so that's my goal, is to get everyone who wants their voice heard can have their voice heard through me.
Okay, I think that's awesome, and that's basically what I do too. But you focus on Bigfoot. You focus on that, and so out of all of the different things, like mine. With paranormal, we cover a lot of things on the show, me and Chris. I mean, like anywhere from like UFOs to this and that. But with you focusing just on the Bigfoot, is there a reason? I mean, is it that you want to find out get evidence, or what is it that you're looking for, just personally, by featuring this?
And I think our namesake, Big Truth, I think is the answer to that question. You know, we want the big truth. You know, we want to know exactly what this animal is. We want to know where can we find it, where can we study it. You know, we are obviously 100% no kill. We don't want it harmed, but unfortunately, we want to be able to study this animal and prove its existence.
And so you believe it's more of an animal than another being? Like, what is your opinion based on the guests that you've had? Because I'm going to tell you, you have way more guests that are focused right on Bigfoot than I would, because I don't focus just on that. So what did you come to, like, as far as, like, what you think it is?
Sure. You know, my own personal opinion is that it is a relic hominoid. Basically, down the highway of evolution, it just took a different street. You know, I think it's more human than animal, more human than ape, I should say. And I think that from my understanding, there's some evidence coming out very, very soon to suggest that exact same scenario. And so that's going to be really interesting. And so, in my opinion, it's more human than ape, but it still must follow the laws of nature. I don't personally believe in the cloaking and the mind speaking and the alien intervention and those things, but we need to be able to listen to all the different theories if we're going to be able to base an opinion in the long run.
True. And so one of the questions I think everybody has, which me and Chris were talking about right before we got you on the air here, why do you think that nobody has ever found like one dead or anything? Or do you think they have and there's been like some sort of cover up? And why would they cover it up?
Well, that's another interesting question, and I've heard a lot of talk about cover-ups, and I've been kind of digging on those myself. There are some very, very qualified people who are making some assertions of that nature. I'm not going to dismiss that. I think that that's a very good possibility. And as far as why we haven't found a body, you think about it as humans, when we get sick, and we're coming towards the end of our lives, we go to our bedroom, we go to a hospital, we go to places like that, because that's where we're going to feel safe. That's where we're going to feel like we're going to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Animals are the same way, but they don't have those things. So what they do, an animal, when it feels sick, it's going to run off and hide. It's going to hide so it feels safe because it knows it can't defend itself. When it hides, it's in a hidden location when it dies, unfortunately. So the fact that we haven't found a body, to me, doesn't surprise me at all. If you look in the Pacific Northwest, there's been 80 planes that have gone down in the Pacific Northwest that they can't find with today's technology, satellites, everything else. If they can't find those, why do we think that we should be able to find a Bigfoot that got sick and ran off and hid?
Exactly. Just like finding Atlantis. If you can't find even a ship that goes down in the Bermuda Triangle, come on, why? If these animals are, or these beings, or whatever they are even more human than not, that would imply that they have an intelligence level enough to maybe even cover up. Maybe they're fearful. Maybe they know instinctively or know enough about us to know that we're looking for them. Look at all the shops with Bigfoot figures and all this stuff and all that,
Sure.
Who knows if they're not just afraid, like the second they come out, they're going to get captured and this and that. Maybe there is a reason why they are afraid of us too.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And, you think about, these animals have been around for a very, very long time, and the evidence speaks to that. Lee Erickson, for example, when he came to the New World, when he left, in his diary, he said that he was run off by a tribe, basically, of large, hairy monsters with deep, dark eyes.
Wow.
So, that's Lee Erickson. That's back before Christopher Columbus or anybody else got here,
Yeah.
You can talk about, the history of the Indians, the Native Americans and their stories and the names that they have for them. They've been around for a very long time. And my point is, if they've been around for a long time, I'm fairly certain they've been watching us as well. They see what we're doing to ourselves. They see the Civil War, for example. Soldiers have talked about, going into the woods to relieve themselves and, seeing this creature, and they go, scares them to death.
Well, think about this. That last tribe, Chris would probably know this. Is she the last Ahi that was up in
Oroville?
Oroville?
Right.
Okay, he was the last of his tribe, and he was able to hide from everyone right along with modern, people and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, one person, he came forward or something. He was alone, right? He was lonely.
Yeah, something happened that made him come out of the woods.
Okay, and just think about it. There's not very often that we do run across I hate to say this, just it sounds so graphic, but we don't usually run across dead bodies, right?
Right.
But we're so populated. There's so many people. If this is just a very small group, let's call it endangered species of a sort. Maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're living in caverns. Ever see the big, redwood trees? How some people go down inside of these redwood trees. They go rappelling right down inside of them. And who's to say that they're not living within these trees?
Right. You're absolutely right. There is an abundance of places for them to hide. And you can, if you and I went out into the wilderness, you gave me a 1 minute head start, and you're not going to find me. Unless you're a professional tracker, you're not going to find me.
Okay, we're gonna leave it at that thought, because remember that thought, everybody listening, because we're gonna talk about something that I'm gonna ask you a question about people going missing. Okay, so everybody stay tuned for Ed Brown and the Dirt. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, I'm Nate. I'm the founder of Trip Paranormal, also seen on the A&E Bio channel. Have you ever wanted to take a paranormal class, but you didn't know where to start? Well, now you can. At tripparanormal.com, you can work with me and my team as we teach you our techniques in the field of what it's like to be a real investigator. So book yours today at tripparanormal.com. Classes start at $25.
Whether it's weekend camping at your favorite site or touring the country to visit the wonders of the United States, All Seasons RV Center has the RV for you. All Seasons RV Center has a full range of travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, and tent trailers to suit your every need. No one in Northern California offers a more complete selection than All Seasons RV Center, and nobody beats All Seasons RV Center's prices. All Seasons RV Center has one of the largest parts and accessories departments in Northern California, and our RVIA and RVDA certified technicians are experts on plumbing, electrical, bodywork, awnings, appliances, air conditioning, heating, and hitches to service your every RV need. All Seasons RV Center is located in 2 convenient locations to serve you. Parts and service at 3300 Colusa Highway off the George Washington exit, and sales on the corner of Highways 99 and 20 in Yuba City. Or you can visit us on the web at allseasonsrvcenter.com.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, Executive Director of Life Issues Institute.
Shayla Taylor and her husband Jerome were on the 2nd floor of the Moore Medical Center in Oklahoma having their 2nd baby. She wasn't worried about the storm outside until the nurses rushed into her room. Shayla pulled out her phone and the weather app said the tornado was headed right for them. Jerome and son headed for cover while they moved Shayla into a surgical suite with no windows. The nurses crouched down by her bed and Shayla turned her head and closed her eyes. When she opened them, she saw Interstate 35 and the local theater because the wall was gone, but all were safe. An ambulance took them to an undamaged hospital where Braden Emmanuel was born. Emmanuel means God is with us. She picked the name months ago and now knows why.
For more information, visit our website at lifeissues.org and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Hi everybody, you're listening to The Dirt, and we are having some fun talking about Bigfoot tonight, and we're hoping that by the end of the show, I've got my producer, Chris Singleton, just like all set to go Bigfoot hunting. I think we're gonna have to have a big Bigfoot hunt. But anyway, we have our special guest tonight, Ed Brown. And so, Ed, I do believe we are going to hold the thought about missing people because we do have a caller that would like to call in and talk about Bigfoot with us.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Emil, are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Emil. Thank you so much for calling in to The Dirt. We really appreciate your call. So what would you like to share with us?
Well, your topic tonight is about Bigfoot, correct?
Exactly, and we're having a blast talking about Bigfoot, and we want to hear anything to do with Bigfoot.
Well, okay. You know, there was an anthropologist by the name of Professor Grover Krenz, and that's spelled C-R-A-N-T-Z. And he wrote a book called Evidence of Bigfoot and Sasquatch from the University of Washington. And he had the largest collection of Bigfoot imprints that were taken through the years from like 1958 all the way up until his death. I believe he died in the 1990s, maybe early 2000s.
Wow.
And he donated that to the Smithsonian Institute. And Grover Krenz was a skeptic for many years about the Bigfoot stuff, and then he started to look into, and he hired some forensic people that checked into these prints, and he found out that by studying them early on that were taken from the 1950s, that they had dermal ridges in them. That's like fingerprints in these prints that were taken out of the mud. And who would have thought to make fake footprints or fingerprints in these imprints that were taken in the 1950s.
Yeah.
He also had one that where the animal or the creature had stepped into something and broken its foot, and he had to check it because it had like a really crazy cockeyed imprint. And so he had that looked at by some doctors and medical experts that estimated the size of the footprint and the weight that the animal would have to have from how deep it was into the ground. And they measured it probably about 800 pounds. And they said that the way that this had been deformed from the bone structure and so forth of the foot, that no normal person could come up with anything like that. You would have to know a lot about, the anatomical, workings of creatures and skeletal forms and so forth. So
I agree with that. It would be hard to imitate that.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Another thing is that there's a guy by the name of Elmer Keith who was a famous author. He was the editor of Guns and Ammo, and he was the developer of the 357 Magnum and the 44 Magnum, and he was world-renowned as far as his hunting and exploration ability. Well, he says in one of his books, I'm not sure if it was Six Guns or Hell I Was There, it was one of the two, that he actually was walking down a path in Idaho, like back in the 1920s or 30s or something, and in the middle of nowhere, and he came face to face with one of these creatures, and that it saw him, they were face to face, and it ran back off the opposite direction.
Wow.
And this guy was like, anybody that knows anything about Elmer Keith knows that guy was sound as a dollar. Also, there's other people who claim to have either encountered or had some kind of evidence of these creatures, and Lewis and Clark talked about it in their memoirs when they went across the nation. Daniel Boone claims to have killed one.
Wow.
Teddy Roosevelt said that he experienced some strange situations with them. Thousands of people have reported it. And a lot of these people are outside. They know the difference between a bear and something else that they've never seen. They've got lots of undeniable tracks and so forth. And people wonder why there's no dead skeletons and so forth. Well, if you check it out, there hasn't been a skull of a dead black bear found in the state of Washington since 1959.
That's
now,
a long time. Yeah. Why is that?
And we know that there's probably tens of thousands of black bears living in Washington.
That's so true. And so that's what I'm saying is just because we don't run across a dead body of sorts or whatever, or get a video of it, I personally have never even seen a bear in the wild in my whole life. And I've camped and everything else. I would not be able to make a video of a bear. I've seen them in zoos. I've seen one crossing a road, but did I have my camera out? No. But can somebody tell me I did not see a bear? No.
Right, exactly. So, and there's probably not a lot of these creatures around. I believe they probably live in pods. There's not a whole lot of them, but they do exist. And I can tell you, I saw one myself.
Okay.
I saw it in broad daylight, about 200 yards into a field. It had a it was undescribable. I looked at it for quite a while, and I was going like, what in the world is this? And I thought, it can't be. And, I've seen a lot of video. I watched in fact, I remember when the video came out with the Patterson film. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that, where and that film has been examined thousands of times by numerous people trying to discredit it, and they've never been able to. And in fact, as technology gets better and more advanced, they've been able to find more details about it and things that they can't explain that are not natural from any kind of creature that we know of.
Right.
But the one I saw was about 10 feet tall, and be happy to take a polygraph test on this. But it was in the middle of it was on a field about 200 to 250 yards away from a highway, and it happened to be in an area where there had been some seen before. There's the coastal, I guess they call it like the pathway that they have that goes from all the way from like Mexico to Canada, and it was right off of that pathway. So that might be a way that they find to get around. Don't know, but the one I saw was about 10 feet tall,
That's
very
amazing.
pointy head, very long arms, and it looked to me like it was trying to find something in a bank where I would expect to see like ground squirrels.
Wow, that is so incredible. Is that how you became super intrigued with Bigfoot, or has this been ongoing?
No, actually, I have the original. I have the original magazine from Argosy that came out back in the 60s that has the frames of the Patterson film and so forth.
Wow.
But I never really believed that I would ever see one. And in fact, when I did see this one, I was I kept doubting what I was seeing until I couldn't doubt it anymore because it was just plainly obvious.
That is so cool.
And when I first saw it, I thought that this is that's a really big guy.
Yeah.
And then I went like, don't look like any guy that could be that big, and his head doesn't look right, and weren't these long arms and stuff. And I thought, no way, it can't not be. And after a while, I just went like, I kept looking at it, and I went like, there's nothing else it can be but a Sasquatch. And the Indians didn't just name this stuff or come up with this stuff out of nowhere either. I mean, a lot of the Indians have a ancient knowledge of this stuff.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can't just toss that aside. So that's what I think about.
And what about, okay, so I'm not sure if you know like the common states. I mean, it sounds like you've been really researching Bigfoot a lot. And so I'm just going to throw a question out there. If you can't answer, it's no big deal, but I just thought, no Bigfoot deal. But I was just wondering, I'm from the Midwest. And so do you know of any sightings or anything that are from the Midwest? I mean, I know all along Washington, Oregon, California.
Yeah, there are. And
really?
In fact, yes, there are. Hundreds. And in fact, I was at a place called Tug Lake in the middle of the summer with some of my friends, and we went to this lake. It's called Tug Lake, and we were hanging out. It was about like 3 o'clock in the morning, and something was throwing rocks about the size of a small television set into the air and out into this lake. And we couldn't see it, but we could see the brush moving around, and we would once in a while see these rocks being tossed, and then no human being could do it. I'm telling you, throwing rocks that were like about 150 pounds way out into this lake, up into the air.
Yeah,
and
no way.
Yeah, and then later, I heard that there was some sightings around Tug Lake, which is very remote and swampy area of Wisconsin.
Wow, that is so cool to know. That's really awesome. I heard of a lot of Ohio.
But I didn't see anything that time. But I did see it throwing these. I saw these rocks in the air, and later on, I read stuff about the fact that these creatures are known to throw. They throw rocks at people, and I guess I think it was Lewis and Clark said that they had some strange noises and knocks in the woods, and there were some other people that were in their party that had split up from them that said that something was throwing boulders at them in the water.
Okay, so do you feel like it was trying to scare you away, just get your attention?
That's what I think it was. Yeah, okay. I think it was trying to either scare us, or it was. I can't think of anything else that it would try to do. Although there are reports where there were some kids that were walking, and one of them said that they got pelted by some small pebbles, and then they looked, and there was a creature that is commonly described as a Bigfoot that was in the woods. But it wasn't trying to hurt anybody. But they are known to actually throw rocks, and that's one of their calling signs. And one other thing, I have a friend of mine who grew up in Portland, Oregon, and his cousin and his friends were out camping up by Mount St. Helens. And they were out at night, and they were just sitting around the campfire, and he pulled out a flute, and he was playing it, and he said that something in the woods started screeching and screaming, like make your hair curl. And he said there's not a human being, and he's never heard anything like it, and there's no animal that can screech like that.
That is so scary. I have a personal friend too that also heard that same similar screaming. They actually thought that possibly somebody was getting, like a woman getting murdered. I know that sounds extreme, but it was like so extremely high pitched, and all kinds of people at this remote lake where they were all camping came out of the tents because there was only a few campers at this time, and literally they were like, they thought there was like a beast or somebody getting killed or something. And they said that sound is, and then they were Googling it, and they said it sounded a lot like what other people have recorded or put on the internet as like Bigfoot screams.
Right. Yeah, he said that this sound was something that no human could do it. And also that some of these recordings that they've looked into, they've matched it with any kind of sounds from any other animal, and it's not a match with anything that we know of.
That's so amazing.
That's a fact. I think Krenz was working on that himself, because he had not only imprints from the that were taken from the ground, but he was also working on the sounds and so forth. So Grover Krenz was someone who was a renowned expert in it. In addition to that, there's a talk show host that lives in Seattle, and he used to be national, and he's a believer in the Bigfoot. And his name escapes me at the moment, but I could probably let you know maybe on your next broadcast.
Oh, or even if you want to call in later on too, if you run across it, just call back. We're going to be on until 7, but otherwise, definitely another time if you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Emil, for calling in. And Ed, did you have anything you wanted to say or elaborate on to Emil or for Emil before he goes?
Emil,
no,
thanks for
that's
calling
good.
in.
That's all I got right now.
Those were
thank you very much,
techniques.
and enjoy your show.
All right. Thank you, too. All right. So, Ed, what did you think about that?
Well, I can kind of start from the beginning and kind of go through, because he touched on a lot of different things, which was great. Grover Krenz, another legend in the community. The guy did some amazing work. He was one of the pioneers. And the foot he's referring to is what they call the crippled Bigfoot. It's a left foot that was obviously injured in some way, and it is definitely deformed. The prints have been found in several different locations. Very, very interesting. And, he's talked about the rock throws and things of that nature. Actually, my friend Dan in Southern Oregon, who is the Big Truth, he has actually had a rock thrown and hit him right in the back.
Oh, my goodness, that's so scary.
And he's got that on film. So if someone goes to our YouTube channel, they can see that. They can see it happen. And, I guess you don't really see the rock, but he's like, what in the world was that? A rock hits him in the back.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's got, and there's some great things. He made some great points. But I appreciate the call, Emil. Thank you.
Yeah, and then also one thing I wanted to elaborate on too were basically pranks. Now, if somebody was going to do a prank, would you really do it in the middle of this, way out in the middle of nowhere on some highway where there's going to be 1 or 2 cars driving by, and you're standing in a suit in the middle of nowhere just to step out kind of briefly for some, car to go by or something like that? What would be your point? I mean,
well, unfortunately, if you knew there were going to be 1 or 2 cars going by, that's exactly when they would want to do it. In fact, it happened once. I want to say it was in Montana, but I could be mistaken. But a gentleman was doing just that and got hit by the car and was killed.
Okay, that's scary.
So, yeah. So, that doesn't make sense? Absolutely not. But these hoaxers, is what we call them, they're pretty intelligent. They know what they're doing, and they can they can raise some eyebrows. They cause a lot of debates.
Yeah, that's true. I guess there are people who would go through that just for whatever reason. But, I mean, let's just say you're on a hike in the middle of nowhere where nobody expected you to go, and you're on a remote trail somewhere. How would that prankster decide that this is a great opportunity to go sit around all day long for that random one person who maybe or maybe will not even walk through there?
Sure, and you're exactly right. The location of a sighting is a huge factor.
Yeah.
I've heard recently, as a matter of fact, like less than a year ago, that there were some sightings in basically right there in Detroit. And now, someone said they saw one climbing into an abandoned house. I don't personally buy into that. Not saying they're wrong, not saying they're lying, just that, that's kind of hard for me to believe, So, the location of the sighting is a lot.
I think so, too. And I think we do have another caller on the line for you.
Great.
So let's see who we have here. Who do we have, Chris?
We got Paul Dale Roberts.
Paul Dale Roberts. Thank you so much for calling in, Paul.
Hey, Lloyd, what's up?
Not too much. I mean, well, everything. We're talking Bigfoot. And our special guest tonight is Ed Brown, and he's actually going to take your call. And so, Ed, go for it. Let's see what
Great. Hi, Paul. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Bigfoot is definitely a good topic.
Oh,
it's wonderful.
I love it, too. So,
excuse me, I'm in my car because I'm headed for an investigation. But I just have to ask you something. Do you think Bigfoot is an interdimensional type of creature? That's why we can't capture one?
My own personal opinion is no. I don't believe that they are interdimensional or alien or anything of that nature. I do think that those stories are very important and we need to hear them, because just because I don't personally believe it doesn't make it true. That doesn't make me right, I should say. So we definitely need those stories in the lore of this creature so that we can base objective opinions. But personally, I believe that they are flesh and blood. I think that they have to live by the laws of nature. Great question, though.
What do you think, Paul?
Thank you. Well, what is kind of interesting is that they interviewed a few hunters who claim that they actually shot Bigfoot and that Bigfoot dispersed into sparks or electricity or so it's odd that they would say something like that. And for it, if that was true, then that tells me that Bigfoot can interchange from matter to energy. So it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
And so that would maybe be why, nobody's ever run across one, because if that were the case, there would be no way to keep them or their body as evidence. So maybe that's where some of the theories come from, that they're interdimensional.
Right. And also, too, with the Sumerian clay tablets, it mentions that the Anunnaki were experimenting with the DNA of the different primates here on Earth, and one of them they were not successful with, which sounds very similar to a Bigfoot creature, and that it went underground, that these creatures live in underground dwellings. So, that's just another theory. No one's ever caught a Bigfoot, so I guess until someone does, we'll never actually know.
Absolutely, and I think there may be some truth to the cave dwelling. I've heard several stories of people seeing a Bigfoot walking into a cave, or hearing noises from inside the cave that just doesn't make sense. There's actually a pretty famous picture on the internet of someone who was actually in a cave, heard some noises, took some pictures in the flash, caught some. There's some eyes and some very unique shapes looking back, And it's a very, very interesting photo. And so is that a possibility? Absolutely.
I think so too. Yeah, and so in other words, we're thinking basically that they do live in groups rather than just being a solitary animal or creature?
I think that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Paul, I don't know if you've heard anything different, but what I'm hearing is that they are more family oriented.
Can you say that again?
I just mentioned that what I'm hearing through the people that I communicate with, that they do seem to be more family oriented, and they hang out in little small clans, if you will.
Oh yeah, I've heard of the same thing. Bigfoot also too kind of falls into the category of, let's say, phantom cats in Britain. My wife Deanna, she actually experienced near the town of Thornton, seeing a phantom black cat that was very, very large. But a lot of phantom black cats, and they're also too known as alien big cats, are seen in England. And it's just kind of odd that so many witnesses see these cats, but no one's ever captured one. No one's ever captured any fur on the branches. There's no dung to pick up. I mean, it's just really odd that these phantom cats are constantly seen over there, but no one's ever caught one.
Right, right. And those reports are actually getting more and more common. You are hearing more and more of them.
Wow. That's so interesting. We'll have to get more information on that sometime too. That sounds really cool. But it's a similar concept. It's like, look at how many people claim to have seen a Bigfoot, and yet they're so elusive. I mean, like, people do not find evidence, like, a lot. But I mean, getting some footprints and all that kind of, I mean, that's a lot more evidence than it sounds like these cats get. So I mean, if you look at it like that, and a film and pictures, I mean, maybe there collectively is a lot more evidence than we really realize.
Collectively, there is a ton of evidence to suggest the existence of a Bigfoot.
Yeah. And so, Paul, before you go, what is your theory behind it? Do you think that there's any sort of cover-up on the Bigfoot, or do you think they're just elusive as far as everyone goes? Government, everybody? Do you think it's completely just they're just elusive, or do you think there is a cover-up?
I'm sort of leaning on the interdimensional, and the reason why I say that is because other witnesses say that when they see Bigfoot, they see a UFO, or when they see a UFO, they see Bigfoot, or they have actually seen Bigfoot interacting with the occupants of a UFO, interacting with greys. So, and greys are known to actually materialize and walk through walls when they abduct their victims, and so that tells me they're able to go from energy to matter, matter into energy. So Bigfoot could be doing the same thing. So I just don't understand how it is that this creature, you could call it Yeti, you could call it Sasquatch, call it Bigfoot. It's seen all throughout the world. People see multitudes of these little creatures all over the world, and yet we can't even capture one.
That's right. And so we're going to be actually going to a break. Paul Dale Roberts, thank you so much for calling in. Everybody stay tuned. After the top of the hour announcements, we're going to be back with Ed Brown. So Ed Brown, go take a little break.
Fox News Radio, I'm Joe Chiaro. The rain keeps coming, and the floodwaters just don't seem to stop rising in Texas.
According to the National Weather Service, 35 trillion gallons, trillion with a T, 35 trillion gallons of rain has fallen on Texas throughout the course of this month. President Obama came out and he issued a disaster declaration for several counties across Texas, including Harris County, that includes Houston. We spoke to several homeowners down there over the past couple of days who had severe damage to their homes, and they say even though they have insurance, they will definitely take any help that they can get.
Fox's Will Carr. Thunderstorms tonight battered parts of rain-weary Houston with heavy downpours and small hail. Some street flooding reported. The city's primary electric provider reports more than 18,000 customers lost power. By tomorrow afternoon, key provisions of the Patriot Act will start shutting down unless Congress strikes a weekend deal.
At the heart of this showdown is the NSA's bulk collection of phone records. A House-passed White House-endorsed bill would end that, but still allow the agency to see records held by service providers case by case. Sunday night, other aspects of the Patriot Act also expire, the FBI warns, including roving wiretap capabilities and surveillance tools to monitor so-called lone wolf attackers. The FBI adding it won't be able to get some business records. The Senate is holding a rare Sunday session, but Patriot Act critics promise to do what they can to block any new extension. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News Radio.
A final farewell for a music legend. Blues pioneer B.B. King's funeral held today in a Baptist church in his hometown of Indianola, Mississippi. President Obama among those offering tributes. King was 89 years old when he died on May 14th at his home in Las Vegas. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Time starts now. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat? Where can you find the answers to these questions?
Car crashes are one of the leading killers of U.S. children. Many of those deaths could be prevented by making sure that kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley throwing his hat into the ring as he prepares to challenge both Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley officially announcing his bid for the presidency in 2016. In front of a large hometown crowd in Baltimore, O'Malley taking digs at Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton, as well as possible Republican contender Jeb Bush.
The presidency is not a crown to be passed back and forth by you between two royal families. It is a sacred trust to be earned from the American people.
O'Malley looking like a long shot without much money or organization yet, but the 52-year-old appears to be determined and is scheduled to head to the early voting states of Iowa and New Hampshire this weekend. In Baltimore, Jill Nato, Fox News Radio.
Hillary Rodham Clinton sent a tweet to Martin O'Malley welcoming her latest Democratic challenger to the presidential race. Clinton tweeted that she's looking forward to discussing strong families and communities. U.S. and Iranian officials meeting this weekend with the clock ticking toward the deadline for a nuclear deal.
And so it begins, the Iranian nuclear talks. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with his Iranian counterpart Javad Zarif in Geneva, Switzerland today. The U.S., Iran, and the 5 other world powers will try to hammer out a nuclear agreement before a June 30th deadline. The major stumbling block right now, inspections of Iran's military sites. U.S. officials say not allowing inspectors in is a deal breaker, but Iranian officials say inspections are quote-unquote completely out of the question. In Jerusalem, John Huddy, Fox News Radio.
And a man shot last night in Baltimore is the city's 40th homicide this month, a record for the city. Arrests have dropped sharply in Baltimore since Freddie Gray died in police custody. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News Radio.
Here's some information on the average American home. You know, a few bedrooms, a bath or two, a home with parents, a couple of kids, a cat named Whiskers, and a dog? You guessed it, Rover. Let's see, it's got 2 color TVs, a stereo, Grandma's silver. Well, you get the picture. It's a home with everything except security. And if your home isn't protected with a First Alert professional security system, your home and family aren't safe. Don't risk becoming a statistic, because you can protect your home and family more affordably than ever before with a First Alert professional security system. Because there's no place quite like home.
On average, a homeowner can expect to be broken into twice in their lifetime. Don't wait to become another victim. Call Golden Bear Alarms today. Golden Bear Alarms. Call on them before the burglars call on you at 743-2077. That's 743-2077 today.
Hey everybody, this is Nate with Trip Paranormal. Be sure to check out our website at tripparanormal.com for all our latest updates, public investigations, tours, events. You don't want to miss it.
You are tuned to the dirt.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found.
That's affirmative. He has evidence proving Bigfoot.
The search for the flying saucers.
You are about to explore another world, another universe with the lights of ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFO.
I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know what it was.
He is overshadowed by the energy from the world teacher, and the world teacher uses him and gives a blessing.
And all of a sudden, I realized that the banging is coming from my kitchen. Instantly, I froze. I was so scared.
They said they heard like a disembodied scream, like a bloody scream, like something bad was happening.
And now, here comes your diva of the dark, Lori Schultz.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to The Dirt. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're getting into the second half of our show, and I just want to thank Ed Brown so much for being here tonight. We're having a blast talking about Bigfoot. It's your area of basically your interest, your expertise. Ed, are you there with us?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Oh, my gosh. We are having so much fun talking about this. Is there anything that you'd like to add? We just had Paul Dale Roberts on the phone with us right before the break. The interdimensional beings, I mean, you're not there with that idea, huh?
Well, I don't think that there is there's been reported sightings of things of that nature. And I guess I just haven't heard or seen any physical evidence to support it yet.
Yeah.
So it's not that I think that it's impossible. I'm just not on that side of the fence, I guess, yet.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different theories, and I think it's just based on, I mean, just think these moments that people have had, their encounters have been brief, and they're usually out in the woods. They're usually, some are during the day, some are at night. I mean, it's not exclusive to one time of the day versus another, which is interesting. So I wanted to ask you, do you feel like they're nocturnal or not?
I don't think so. I think that they probably hunt more at night than they do during the day. Mm-hmm. But I think that they will use the daytime to travel. I don't know. I guess I'll call it a sighting I had was definitely during the day, and so based on what I saw, it would have to be. I would say they were not nocturnal.
Oh my goodness! Now you did not say that you saw something personally.
Oh yeah. I'm not. I can't say 100% sure that it was a Bigfoot, but I can tell you that anything else doesn't make any sense.
Okay, tell us what happened.
Well, after some interviews I did with some people in the southeast Kentucky area, I felt that I had to go down and check it out. So went down, and my brother and I went down, and his wife, and we got hit by a lot of snow. There was probably 1.5 feet of snow and ice, and it was just horrible, horrible weather. So one morning I got up. It's definitely daytime. I'm trekking my way up this mountain the best I can, and I am having a very hard time at it. And I heard unequivocally one solid wood knock, and it stopped me in my tracks. And I was sitting there, and I was kind of like, what was that,
Yeah.
And I waited to hear it again. It never happened. So I turned around, and I'm looking in the direction that I thought it came from, and I pulled out my binoculars because I'm looking from one mountain to another. And as I said, there was a lot of snow and ice, and I was having a very hard time climbing this mountain. And through my binoculars, I'm looking through this mountain, and I see something moving. And all I can say is this thing was on 2 feet. It was walking down the mountain with no problem whatsoever. And it definitely wasn't a bear, because a bear will not walk on an incline like that standing up.
Mm-hmm.
Will not happen. And I don't believe it to be a man, because it was just too easy. It was, its arms weren't out flailing around trying to keep its balance. It wasn't sliding, anything like that. It was just step by step, a pretty steep incline, and it had no problem. It walked into, I watched it, probably saw it for about 7 or 8 seconds. It went into a group of trees, never saw it again. But it was, so I can't say definitively 100% sure I saw Bigfoot. I didn't see it from 10 feet like some people have, but I do believe that what I saw was a Bigfoot.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if it was a person, you would have thought you were looking at a person. I mean, I don't
Correct.
think there's any, indecision on that. Like, when somebody sees something, you either know it's a person or an animal. I mean, if I'm looking across here at Chris, I'm not like, I mean, is that a person or not? Like, you know what you're looking at. I really think that,
sure.
Do we have another caller, Chris?
Yeah, we have Vicky.
All right. Ed, we have Vicky Emanuel. She is actually a medium, and we're going to see what her views are of Bigfoot.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicky, so much for calling in tonight. You know I love you.
Hi. How
Hi.
are you?
Good. Thank you so much
Hi,
for
Vicky.
calling in. And this is Ed Brown on the phone with you.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you, Vicky?
Awesome. Awesome. Bigfoot is not one of my things that I go to a lot, so I think it's pretty exciting to be able to tune in through you to see about Bigfoot. I do have a couple questions for you. So I'm just wondering, is there a specific place that you see, do you go out and investigate Bigfoot?
I don't consider myself a researcher. I go out. I've been out several times. I go to different areas. My friend Dan Lindholm, who lives in Southern Oregon, he has a very good spot that he goes to a couple days a week, and he does a lot of things out there. So I don't have a particular spot that I go to, but as a collective group, we do, which is Dan in Southern Oregon.
So that's what I'm wondering, is there a certain place where supposedly there's more sightings or something, anywhere in the world? Is there a specific location that they see more of them?
Yeah, I think the Pacific Northwest is probably the most active location. That would be anywhere from Northern California all the way up into Canada along that stretch. One thing that would probably surprise people is if you go to the BFRO website and they list sightings all the way down by county, and the number 1, 2, and 3 states are Washington, Oregon, California, and number 4 is right here in Ohio, which is pretty interesting. So I do think that they are, nomadic to a degree. I think that they will go where the food is, and I think they will change elevation depending on the weather patterns as well.
So that's what I was wondering. Is there a reason why? I mean, do you think why? What is the statistics? Why do you guys think that they are in that place? Is it the mountain range? Do you think there's first of all, do you personally think it's a person, or do you think it's an alien being or something other than that?
Sure. I mean, I personally think it's an animal that I think has more human qualities than it does animal qualities. I think that I don't personally believe in the alien connection, but again, that's just me. It doesn't make me right. That's just my opinion. And
right.
I think that based on where they are is based on the food sources that are available. I think that they will follow the deer and the elk. I think they will go wherever you see a large quantity of deer, or you can see where a black bear may be. I believe that would be a location that a Bigfoot could thrive.
Yeah, and also where they can hide, maybe.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hide. So that's a great thing. So do you think they have any mental abilities to be like, oh, there's people, I need to go hide? Or do you think, are they like a big ape?
I think that they do go and hide. I think they hide not because they're, just programmed to hide from humans. I think that they believe that if they're found, based on what they've seen us do to ourselves, with our own civil wars and violence that we have amongst ourselves. And I think that they are aware of that. I think that some of them are aware of that, and that they decide that they just want to avoid us at all costs.
So you think they have a developing brain, not
Yes.
maybe comparing to humans or developing brain smarter than animals?
Yes. I do. I think they have I think they're very intelligent, and I think that I think that would be a part of the human traits or the characteristics of the human side of it. And so yes, I do think that they have a developing brain. I think they're very intelligent.
Interesting. Well, Lori, this one has me stumped, believe it or not. Like, I read all energy. I don't, when it comes to Bigfoot, I think anything, if anybody says anything's not for real, like, we don't have a say for that. I think that I definitely leave it open there. I just wonder what, do you think they're before time? Like, I feel just reading the energy of them that, they were other beings here before even we were, so even before dinosaur times. I don't know if that's what people think. Is that what you think, that they're here before dinosaur times or around then?
Well, that's a great question. And there's an animal that we know existed called the Gigantopithecus, which was a very large ape-like creature, and it is very reminiscent to what people claim to see. Is it possible that this is a holdover? For a long time, people actually felt that was, the best possibility, and it still may be. I don't know. I guess just based on the information that I've received from all the people I've talked to, and you got to understand, when I'm talking to people, I hear so many different theories that I'm basically picking and choosing. What I think is possible, what I think is not, to base my own opinions on.
And has anybody seen one? Like, I haven't followed this, and I was listening to your show, so I don't know. Has anybody literally been there and was like, "Holy heck, there's an animal right there"?
Actually, Ed has seen one.
There are thousands of people who have made tracks, and I seen something that, again, I don't know. It's hard to say because I didn't see any detail, and that's where my reservation comes in. But I can tell you, what I saw was not a bear, and I would find it extremely hard to believe that a human was walking down that mountain as easy as it was in the conditions that existed at that time. Impossible, in my opinion. So
where were you?
I was in southeast Kentucky, and I was actually on an expedition looking for evidence. And, so that, in fact, I was climbing the mountain I was on, thinking, okay, well, this snow is great, because if there's any tracks up here, I'll be able to find it, And I couldn't even make it to the mountain. I made it 2/3 of the way up, and I was like, okay, I'm old and out of shape, so this isn't for me.
So you were looking for one, though?
Yes, exactly. I was there looking for evidence after hearing several reports in that area. That's, I picked that location for that reason.
So was it a blurb? Like, when you saw him, did he just or him, whatever, did it just run like a blurb?
It was walking very nonchalantly down a mountain. And, as I said, with the conditions, this thing was not, it wasn't like, its arms weren't frailing, trying to keep its balance. It wasn't, it was a pretty steep hill, by the way. It was pretty steep. And it wasn't fighting to keep its balance. It wasn't carrying anything. I could tell there was no gun with it or backpack or anything of that nature. This was a silhouette that I saw through binoculars at a pretty big distance, and it was pretty cool. It was a great experience, and I only wish I had picked that mountain instead of the mountain I was on.
And you also heard a really loud wood knocking too.
Yeah, actually, and that's really not all. Actually, I heard
the wind knocking.
The wood knock came first, and it just came out of nowhere, and it was a definitive wood on wood, very loud, one single smack, which stopped me in my tracks. Later, my brother and I were down towards the bottom of the mountain, and he's pretty good at doing the if you've ever seen the show Finding Bigfoot, they do a lot of the the whooping, the Bigfoot calls. So I asked him, I said, go ahead and do one. So he does the call, and I kid you not, we heard a very definitive whoop whoop right afterwards. 3 seconds later. So I'm like, okay,
so they have their own language?
That's a very good question, and there's a lot of talk going on in the Bigfoot world right now about just that. there have been
Was
recordings
it hairy?
I'm sorry?
What you saw, was it hairy?
It looked hairy. It definitely looked, you know, I couldn't tell if it was hair I was seeing or, you know, bushes from the backside, you know, because there were a lot of trees. It could have been the limbs I was looking at. I was so hard to tell, and I don't want to say something that isn't true, but it looked like it was pretty hairy.
Yeah.
It would just be funny if Bigfoot was like this bald big thing,
I
right?
don't think that would be just scary looking. I would rather that he's hairy. Well, did you have any questions or anything for Vicky? Because she is an energy reader. I mean, is there anything that you would like want to tune her into, or Vicky vice versa?
Actually, I would love to. Vicky, you know, if you ever sense something that you might feel would be relevant to the Bigfoot community, by all means, get over to Lori, and Lori can contact me, or I can give you, you know, my information. But let us know. So
Sure.
Put that in
That
our,
would be very interesting. If anything,
bank of
I feel
information.
they're in. You know, I see when I go to what you guys are looking for or something. You know, I feel deep in the woods, but and I see by water. So I think you guys, obviously they need water. So that's what I'm feeling is maybe caves by water. So when you guys are looking, I feel like that might be the place to tune into.
That would be awesome. Or maybe sometime when you guys are on a hunt, if you can get a hold of Vicky or tell her exactly where you're going to be, maybe she would even be able to assist you. I don't even know, but I know Vicky can go remote.
No, I can. I can ask her travel, and I can go there, and I can actually. I've been finding a lot of missing things and missing people's stuff recently. So, yeah, I would love to do that. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, Vicky, I will take you up on that. That's a promise.
Yeah, well, get my info from Lori, and if you're over there, I can tell you north, east, west, south, or I can even go there and tell you where. So I would love for one to be, literally found. But this is my question. What happens? What happens if you do find one? What are you going to do?
Oh, wow, that is a great question. I've been asking myself that for a long time. Personally, it's not going to change my love for the subject, but I do think that once it's found and once it's discovered, a lot of the, we'll say, part-time researchers or armchair researchers will probably, kind of stop paying attention to it. And I think that it will eventually just become, just like all the other animals. For example, we went through the same thing recently in with the billy ape. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. That was found in the Congo. There were reports of a man-sized chimpanzee, and then in 1996 they found a skull. Just a few years later, in 2003, they finally discovered this animal, and it is a chimpanzee-type animal that is the size of a man. I mean, can you imagine the strength on a chimpanzee the size of a man? I mean, this thing's 6 foot tall.
Oh, chimpanzees. Yeah, that'd be nasty.
Yeah, and it's actually been found.
Well, you know what? I feel they're multidimensional. I'm just going to let you know. I will be really surprised, and I'm all about helping you find one. But I feel they are multidimensional because it's what I see when I go into the energy of it. Is I feel they can come and go as they please, and I see multidimensional, which is pretty cool, I think. But that's kind of more of the alien thing or something that you don't necessarily believe in. But that's what I see. I see they're multidimensional.
Well, let me tell you, just because I don't necessarily believe that, I would love for that to be the case, because I think that would make this animal even more special than what it already is.
That would be so great. Well, you guys definitely have to hook up. I will definitely get your information back and forth to each other so that you guys can seriously maybe try to plan a hunt where Vicky can be involved and just see what would happen from that. That would be amazing. It could be just like worldwide information.
That would be pretty cool, yeah.
That would
cool.
Great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and thanks, Lori. Love hearing you.
I love hearing you.
The rest of the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Vicky, for calling in and your input. It was wonderful to hear from you. So I hope you have a great day, and thank you for tuning in, Vicky.
Thanks. All right. Chat later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Okay, so that was super cool. I mean, that's another way to do it. There's even law enforcement has used mediums and people with psychic abilities to even solve crimes and everything else. So, I mean, you have to be open to everything to find something new, right?
Absolutely. And then let me say that I do believe that there are people out there who can do exactly what Vicki is referring to, and I think that's awesome. So I am not at all insinuating that she can't do that, because I believe she can.
I believe she can too. And if you, I'll get you her information, and anybody else who's listening, I'm going to do a shout out for Vicki for calling in tonight. You can Google her, Vicki Emanuel. She's an energy reader, and she's all over. I mean, if once you Google her and you look into her, you're going to find out that she has done amazing things. And so I'm just really grateful she called in tonight. That was super cool. And Paul Dale Roberts as well. He's a really big investigator, paranormal. I mean, he investigates everything, all different angles of the paranormal. I do think we have another call for you, Ed.
Great.
So yeah, we have a guy named Guy Drew on the phone.
Guy Drew, awesome. So Guy Drew, welcome to The Dirt.
Well, thank you. Hey,
and we have Ed Brown
your
here.
entire program, and I'm totally fascinated by this Bigfoot issue.
Thank
because
you.
I've had some not personal sightings.
There's background
I've had
noise.
some information given to me that made me stop and think quite a bit.
Guy, there's a little bit of background noise. If you can get to a little quieter area, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, I'll go over here in another room where it's a little more quieter.
Okay,
Is that better?
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Guy. Okay, so Ed, you got it.
All right. Hey, Guy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks, Ed. I was listening to your comments earlier and comments from other people, and I've got some things that may tie that together for you.
Great.
Would you like to hear about it?
Absolutely would. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm a retired semi-driver, and I don't live up there anymore, but I used to live in Idaho, and I did some trucking for a company that went up into Canada. I don't know if you're familiar with the place called Trail, British Columbia.
I am
But
not.
anyway, it's straight north of Spokane, about maybe 150 miles. Anyway, the road that goes to Trail follows the Columbia River all the way up to Canada. And then you go through a checkpoint there, customs, and then you go on maybe another 35 miles to the factory, and then you come back. And it's a very, what we would call undeveloped, woodsy area all the way up. And the funny part is, I had heard a lot about the behavior of Bigfoot and where they live and all that, but I've never experienced any of it, although I've been a kind of a follower, just an interested person all along. And so one day, I knew at the time, I'd been working there several years, going up and back and forth every day to Trail, and I had gotten to know the people in the customs, the U.S. Customs office quite well, and several of the truckers that they didn't go as far as me. I would go there and go back down to Oregon with my load or wherever from this factory. But at any rate, the local truckers up there, I got to know them pretty well because they were back and forth across the border much more than me. They would go through maybe 3-4 times a day. And this particular trucker, I knew many of them, but this particular trucker lived only about maybe 10 miles from that check station that went into Canada. And his family farm was at a little intersection, a highway that came out to the main highway, and it was a dairy farm, and his dad had owned the farm all this guy's life. This particular trucker was about in his 40s, probably around 45 years old, real robust guy, very friendly and nice. And all the while I knew him, he never mentioned one thing about where he lived or about Bigfoot or anything personal of nature like that. We just would meet in there in the customs shop and talk. And we both knew the people who worked, the officers in the customs shop. So at any rate, one day I came down the hill. I went into the customs shop to check in to come back into the United States. And lo and behold, the people behind the counter said, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, of the other driver, but they said, do you know this other driver? And I said, yes, I do. I know him pretty well. And they said, well, he has information about a Bigfoot today that happened on his dad's farm down here. And I said, really? Wow. He said, yeah. He said, wait till he gets in here. He's due back to the shop pretty soon. So while they were processing my papers, I was standing around there waiting, and pretty soon he pulled in with his big truck, and he came walking in, and just like always, didn't say too much. He was just friendly. And they said, hey, tell Randy or these other people over here about the the sighting that happened down at your dad's farm. And being a interested person about Bigfoot, I perked up, and he said, he's told all of us, the head guy there, and he told me, and he said, hey, he said, this is what happened. He says, I'm not a big follower about this, but when I was a young boy on my dad's farm, there was a Bigfoot sighted on our farm. He says, and we had several people tell us they saw it run across the field and go up into the woods on our farm. And the reason he was telling me about it specifically, he said, you know where the road comes out to the main road? Because I took that road every day as a shortcut on the northbound, and on the southbound I would go straight through that intersection and go down. At any rate, it was real woodsy along the highway, and on the one side of the road is the Columbia River, on the other side is all woods. And his father owned the woods and the field and the farm. And at any rate, about maybe 20 years before that, and he was a young kid, it might even been 25 years, they had a sighting of a Bigfoot on his dad's property. And the where it went up through the woods is he remembered it well because his dad took him and they looked at the tracks in the mud and everything and where it went.
Oh, great.
So one day, his dad, this particular day, said, guess what? It was in winter now. This was in winter, and it was about 3 feet of snow or 2 feet of snow up there. He said, guess what? A Bigfoot went across our property last night. You got to come over here and track it with me. So the guy, before he went to work in the morning, he went over there to his dad's house, and they tracked the track. And he said, you would not believe the size of the track. And he said it came from the road, so he doesn't know where it started, but it went right across his property, up the field, through the meadow, and into the woods. And in the middle of the woods, at the very crest of the hill, there's a big fence, you know, a big 5-strand farm fence to keep the cows in. Sure. Anyway, they tracked it all the way up to that fence, and he thought, right now we're going to find out what's going on, because at that fence, any human or most animals would have to get down and go underneath the fence or scramble over the fence. There would be a lot of activity there and tracks. Right. You know what I'm saying, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And you couldn't just go to a fence, and you'd have to negotiate it somehow. He said those tracks, you could not tell a fence was there. The tracks had no hesitation. They were such a big, long stride, and they were so big. He said when you got to the fence, you could not tell there was a fence there by looking at the tracks. He said it just negotiated that thing like it stepped over it, like a boy would step over a crack in the sidewalk. But he wasn't sure how it could have been done. But they scrambled over the fence and followed. And there were no other tracks on his property, no man tracks. Nobody could have parked there. This is a private farm, a dairy farm. No one goes on there, and it's all posted without them knowing. I mean, it just couldn't happen. But during the night, this took place in the snow. So he followed it up across, and it's the next property. I'm not sure if it's neighbors or if it belongs to the state or whatever, but they followed it down to the road. It's a short distance from the top of that ridge down to the road, the main highway, and they followed the tracks. They went across the road, and maybe 300 yards down was a river. They followed the tracks, went right down to the river, into the river, and disappeared. And he says, that's what I saw. And he says, and it's an exact spot where he and his dad said that the other tracks, when they were kids, his dad took him and said, look at these tracks, and they tracked one, and it went exactly in the same spot 25 years earlier. And he said, that's the funny part. He said, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, right. So then he thought it was just a matter of fact. He said, if you want to look, go down there, and you can stop alongside the road and follow the tracks, and you can see where we came out. And anyway, so cool. I was too busy to do that. And he left, and it was just an average day. And the guys in the customs room there, they said, Drew, did you ever hear of anything like that? And I said, no, I never did. But I said, that's very interesting. And knowing the guy and how matter-of-fact he is and so normally calm, that I couldn't imagine him just coming up with a story like that. So Absolutely. At any rate, they all believed it, and so did I. And so I went about my business, and during the next, few years, this was about, when I lived there, it was about 8 to 10 years ago when this took place. And I've told a lot of people about it, but everybody was amazed. My conclusion of the whole thing was it makes sense in two ways. First, it happened when he was a kid, 25 years earlier, and I think those animals or whatever beings they are, they have an area that they call home ground and home territory, and they were traveling in that area because they felt safe, and that's why it went again through there. The Absolutely. Second thing is it didn't make any side travel, didn't meander around, didn't go near any buildings. It went straight through his property, through the most desolate part, right to the river and disappeared. And my third thing is, I think these animals, if you tie together what you heard and what you've seen and what these other people have said, these Bigfoot are always near water. And I don't think it's to get a drink. I think they live in the water, and perhaps that's why they have big feet, big hands, and heavy fur. Perhaps they swim for safety, or they go under a bank and find a place to live, and that's their home ground in the river or near waterways. Because if I've ever heard of a Bigfoot story, 99% of the time it involves water of some sort, a bay or a lake or a river, some kind of body of water. So what do you think of my conclusions?
I think that is a very, very interesting story, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on your analysis of it. I have heard multiple times how people feel that they will use a creek or a river as like we do a road. They'll get on the creek, they'll take the creek one way or the other. That they know where they're going to get off the creek and go where they're going to go. So I think that's a very, very good possibility, and that's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I wish I could have given you more of a personal observation or a sighting or something like some of these other people have had, and I feel jealous that I haven't had that. But if at all I can put any knowledge to it, especially I like the water aspect, because did you hear the other person who called said one was throwing rocks in the river, and the other one said they saw them around the river, and you even mentioned
and
that.
Maybe they're protective over their home. Like maybe if they are living down there, they build their caves underneath a waterway where maybe they're underground somewhere. There's underground tunnels everywhere. So maybe when they're throwing the rocks or whatever, maybe they just actually are trying to get into the water and scare us out of it so they can get to their home.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. If they think anything like a human, they're going to be protective of their their little lair, just like a dog or a bear or anything. They protect their little home. That's their grounds, and they have to do something to protect. And they're not a violent creature, but I think throwing rocks and something that's just enough to scare someone away probably has worked over the centuries. Who knows?
I'll tell you, Guy, I agree with you 100%. I think that is an incredible story, and I would love to have been him to follow those tracks. And I think I would have probably went home and got me some waders on and went up and down the creek looking for, where they came out. But that is an awesome story.
And thank you so much, Guy, for calling in. We really appreciate you sharing the story so much, because it's stories like these that keep people looking for Bigfoot. And so did you have any more questions for him, Ed?
No, I just want to thank him for calling in, because that's a very interesting story.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed, for calling in. I appreciate it so much.
Welcome. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right. So what do you think about that story? That was pretty awesome.
That was incredible. I mean, that's the exact kind of thing that really keeps me so into this subject. It's not that story is not made up. That story comes from a guy who has a credible person telling him this story.
Yeah.
Not just once, but twice in the same location. And there's a lot of people out there who were trying to find a way to map that exact same thing. And you got to ask yourself, how many times in the 25 years did this thing walk through that exact same location, but they just didn't see the tracks, or
Absolutely.
it wasn't wet, or didn't snow, or whatever. There's things probably walked through there 100 times.
I wouldn't doubt it. And that's the thing, like places like that, like if we could find the location on that, or you guys or other Bigfoot hunters, I mean, that's the type of area where you could actually get possibly some good evidence or really find out where they are going. But it is interesting that they do go down to the river and, or river or lakes or wherever. I really think there is something to that. I mean, they have the big feet. Maybe they can swim good. I mean, we all put on like flippers and everything else when we go swimming. Who's to say?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So was there anything that you wanted to add about that subject? Because otherwise I wanted to go back to the missing persons subject.
No, we can go move wherever you want.
Okay, so we don't have very much time left, so I do want to open it up to anything else that you have to say. And if anybody else wants to call in with a story or a question for Ed, the number is 530-742-5555. The one thing I wanted to talk to you about, have you ever heard of David Pilatus?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
The 411, Missing 411 book.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. So, it's just one of my very favorite series of books. I mean, just his background, his credibility, just some of those stories are amazing. What do you believe he's aiming towards when he's doing these investigations? I mean, really, he just puts these books together. He doesn't really give his opinion all that much. But, I mean, if you've read them like I have, I mean, what's your theory behind it?
Well, I haven't read the book yet. I'm almost embarrassed to say that.
Oh, no, don't be embarrassed, because, I mean, I do that too, where I'm interviewing somebody or I have an interest in something they've done. There's so many YouTube videos and different things that really you probably have a lot of information on what he's all about just without even reading it. So
and from my understanding, from what I've heard, and I haven't talked to David. I have not talked to David personally. Mm-hmm. I know that I believe Dan has reached out to him to try to have him on the show, and I believe he agreed to. We just haven't worked out the timing yet. But I think that from my understanding, and you're exactly right, he doesn't put a whole lot of his own opinions in the book, and I think that's because he doesn't want to, mess up or to influence someone else's opinion. I
agree.
And I think that, he's very careful not to say, this is Bigfoot related. Mm-hmm. But he definitely lets you know that, hey, it is something to consider. And from the accounts that I've heard from other people that he mentions in the book, I think he may be onto something. There's a very good possibility.
I think so too. And what's interesting about David, he does have Bigfoot books as well, and he has spent time with it, on Indian reservations with certain tribes. I don't know. I really would love to interview him too, and I did talk to him before, and he did say that he would allow me to interview him. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And I've read a couple of the books, and I mean, I really think you guys would love interviewing him, because I think it's going to be a lot about Bigfoot. I really do.
Oh, and absolutely.
And I almost think that he's got I don't know, some of the information in there, it does seem interdimensional. So what Vicky's saying, what Paul was saying, it kind of does make sense. But then on the other token, I mean, when you see these animals or these creatures, I don't want to call them animals, vulnerable in the woods or along rivers and things like that, then you wonder, why would they be in that position if they're interdimensional? So I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe
that's an excellent point, Lori. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, because I think they would just disappear. I mean, why would they hold back from disappearing right in front of us if they were trying not to be seen? Or if they have the capabilities of disappearing, you would think they would. Then people would, if I was standing right next to you hunting for him or looking for him, if I spotted him and then all of a sudden he would disappear, then you would be like, I don't see anything. So, it would take away the effect of anybody ever witnessing the same thing as the person they're standing next to,
Sure. And, that's a very interesting point, and I want to tell you a real quick story if I can.
Sure.
I interviewed a very good friend of mine. Her name is, I'll just share her first name is Claudia. Mm-hmm. Really, really nice lady. But she was in a video from someone else who actually filmed what they call a cloaking Bigfoot. Okay, and admittingly, and I'm going to tell you, looking at it on film, all you see is I can only compare it to the movie The Predator. This blur. Is really kind of odd.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed Claudia, she said that's not what I saw. I saw a black juvenile running across that spot. And on the film, all you see is a blur, almost like I said, The Predator. It was really interesting. Wow. And if you get an opportunity, Google that and cloaking Bigfoot, and you'll find it, no problem.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna write that down. I think that's so interesting. I mean, maybe there's more than one creature. I mean, just like there's all different breeds or different types of animals. Like let's just
Sure.
say dogs, okay, or even bears. There's different types of bears. Who's to say there's not different types or different species or variations of the species of Bigfoot? I mean, look at people
Absolutely.
see white ones, the abominable snowman, or they see all different ones. I mean, so
Sure.
who's to say some have a little bit more of a gift than others? Or maybe they're even completely different from each other.
Sure. We talked about that when I interviewed Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and we touched on that subject a little bit, and his answer was actually right on the money. He made the observation that in the Pacific Northwest, where the weather is colder and the more mountainous range and things of that nature, this animal is bulkier, stronger, more muscular. In down south, where the skunk ape inhabits, down in Florida, this animal is probably going to be thinner. It's going to have probably longer hair, and those theories are exactly what I'm hearing when I hear witnesses telling me their accounts. So I think there's definitely a good possibility that there's more than one species, and I've actually heard people talk about 4 different species and 4 different types of Bigfoot. So something I'm looking into. I don't have an opinion based yet. I haven't heard enough to base my own opinion yet, but I definitely think it's something to look into.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think about this? When Guy called in, when we're talking about the waterways, think about the polar bear. The polar bear swims, fishes, goes underwater, literally is a great swimmer. And who's to say why wouldn't Bigfoot be able to be kind of a similar, animal?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
what if they're super agile in the water? Maybe they're big on fish or whatever it is. I mean, maybe they're not necessarily just following deer or following whatever. Maybe it's waterways for a reason or lakes.
Right.
And, so I don't know. I mean, do you have any other cool stories that you'd like to share with any of the listeners?
Yeah, actually, I would love to tell a really cool story that I heard, and I'm going to tell the story because it kind of has to do with caves as well, and water.
Okay.
so it's very interesting. I talked to a gentleman. His name was Kurt Ballard, and he told me the story when he was a kid, how him and his cousin went fishing, and they were out on this little island, and they had their poles in the water. They kind of went across the water to play, and they ended up falling asleep in the tall grass. Right? Then suddenly he hears this noise that wakes him up, and he kind of sticks his head up to the weeds, and he's looking, and there's a giant, hairy man going through his tackle box and knocking things over, and he said that it kind of started making its way towards the donkey because they had a donkey with them, and he said that suddenly there was a scream, a very odd scream, which came from around where he was. This thing stopped, looked up, looked in that direction, and then took off in that direction. Now he said, and then he said that, and his detail on this thing was incredible. I mean, he talked about the fingers, the nails, the facial features. I mean, and he really gives a very, very vivid description of what he sees. And the story is one of my favorite all-time stories, because then he says that a little bit later he saw another one that was walking into a cave, and he said it kind of stopped, looked back at them, and then continued on into the cave. So there's one story that one story touches on the water issue, the cave issue, the demeanor, how they look, and I think it was a great story, and definitely something, if you want to hear that story, you can go to our YouTube channel and find the Kurt interview on the Sasquatch Encounters, and definitely one you want to listen to. It's very interesting.
Oh my goodness, I'm totally going to look it up, because I mean, if you think about that, when somebody goes through and they're talking about their own personal credibility, when they're able to reach out and tell a story, they know other people are going to be wondering, judging, or whatever. And a lot of people will not put themselves in that position unless what they saw is completely legit or they totally believe what they saw. I haven't had hardly anybody ever call in that didn't fully believe what they think they saw or experienced. It was real to them.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point, that there's a lot of I do think that there's a lot of reports, a lot of sightings that are misidentified. But to them, what they saw was real, you know. There's a quote that I really love, and that is, perception is greater than reality, because what you perceive to be real to you is greater than what the actual reality really is. So I love that. I love that quote, and it really puts it into perspective what you're referring to there.
I think so too. I mean, even if you're laying in bed at night and all of a sudden you feel afraid or you think you hear something, I mean, your imagination typically is greater. And not only that, but to go further into the idea of what you're talking about, you and I could be in the same place, see the exact same thing happen, and have two totally different perceptions on what we feel happened. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
I mean,
it might be your greatest moment. It might be my greatest fear. So, you know, and I think I would be in the fear zone if I saw Bigfoot. So, I don't know. I think it's time we ask Chris how he's feeling right now about Bigfoot.
Well, I kind of honestly feel the same as at the start of the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, honesty is a virtue, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you feel like there's a possibility, but now are you leaning more towards the interdimensional or more just a regular creature?
I don't know about interdimensional, but one thought that I've always had about Bigfoot, and I'm a big proponent of the ancient alien theory, especially the main tenets of it as far as and as far as Bigfoot goes, I've always kind of connected him to the giants that are talked about as far as ancient aliens, and even in the Bible.
Yeah.
In the Bible, they talk about the Nephilim, which were children of of the fallen angels. Which, if you believe ancient alien theory, you believe that those were just, aliens, space travelers. So, any thoughts on the connection between those giants in that lore and Bigfoot?
Oh wow, that's a great question, and I've heard that several times, and I think that it's a very good possibility. That as I just talked about, they're mentioned in the Bible, they're mentioned in other realms of possibility. With different ancient civilizations. So is that a possibility? I think it's a very strong possibility that at one time they were more human friendly, if you will.
Okay. I mean, I've heard stories even recently about when people someone was looking out their back window and they said they saw a Bigfoot, going through their chicken coop.
Yeah.
And they had 6 or 7 chickens out there. Then after the Bigfoot left, they went out and saw that the Bigfoot had actually left them a few of their chickens. It only really took what it needed.
Wow.
Right. I it's funny you say that, because I actually know a lady I talked to, and I'm going to go ahead and say her name because she's just a wonderful, wonderful woman. But her name is Arla Williams. And she talks about potatoes. She said she will set potatoes out, and they'll come and take just what they need. And if they take too much, she'll go out to the edge of the woods and she'll say, don't take more. That's for me. And then they will only take what they need. They won't take the whole thing.
Right.
Now,
right.
Do I think that she's really communicating? I don't know, but I believe her story. I do believe that she feels that that's happening. And again, she's a marvelous woman, and I love her to death, but it's an interesting story.
I mean, who's to say that they're not? I mean, if they're intelligent enough to know where the food is, and they know that they're not going to go out farming out in the open. I mean, literally, they go to camp. A lot of people camping run across Bigfoot, say that they come to their camp or different things. I mean, why wouldn't they be so much more different than like us, bears? Other people. I mean, think about it. If we were out in the woods and we had to fend for ourselves or whatever like that, we couldn't really make fires. We couldn't do this. I mean, they'd probably burn their fur, even if they could figure it out. But I mean, it's like you would probably want some pre-cooked food,
Right.
You guys laugh.
Well, I will tell you that tonight, as soon as I finish this interview, I'm actually doing another interview tonight, and I'm going to be talking to a gentleman out of Washington who has found stacks of bones that were stacked nice and neatly.
Wow.
These bones were elk and deer bones, and they actually had teeth imprints on them. And these teeth imprints would, and I don't know how they do this, but there's some really smart people looking into this, and they have determined that the sides of whatever left these teeth marks are about 8 foot 8 inches tall and weigh approximately 800 pounds. And this is all coming out really soon. And in fact, he's going to be releasing a lot of information June 15th. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh my goodness!
So that's one that I'm actually doing tonight, and this is could be my biggest show ever. So
congratulations! And how can anybody listen to it live, or is it just going to be recorded?
It will be recorded tonight, and it should be available. I'm guessing tomorrow evening, at some point. But it's gonna be good.
Oh, I am so excited! I cannot wait to watch it. As soon as you get that, you have to send it over to the Dirt page, and I'll spread it around for you too. But let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and see this. Not just through me. How can people find you and all the information you have?
Well, number one, you want to go to our YouTube channel, which is again Big Truth, BIGTRUTH, one word. You can also visit us at our Facebook group pages, which is Big Truth Community Group and Big Truth Researchers United, or Unite, I'm sorry. We do have a Facebook page, again, same name, Big Truth. And you can reach me on Twitter at @Ed_Big Truth.
That's awesome. And I just hope other people start just following into some of this, because like we were saying, there's a lot more evidence out there than what people really think. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that, there's more than one witness to this. There's people all the time seeing this type of thing. And there's tracks, there's fur, there's...
Yes.
I mean, do you think what about that guy? I mean, there's some people that come out and then they... do a big hoax, and then what it does is just turn so many people against such valid information, which that's the sad part.
I'm assuming you're referring to Rick Dyer.
Yes.
Yeah, he's I talked to Rick Dyer, interviewed Rick Dyer, as a matter of fact, and I can tell you that on as far as the Bigfoot world goes, I think what he did was wrong. He seems very proud of himself for it, but on a personal level, he's actually a really nice guy. We had a great conversation. I've talked to him several times afterwards. He's not someone that I would go Bigfooting with.
Yeah, you're he's probably got something planned.
Yeah, exactly. But, he admits to what he did, and again, he's proud of it. He fooled a lot of people, made a lot of money, according to him. So, they're out there. Those people are out there, and we have to be able to discern one story from the other, because you don't know, you weren't there. You can't say that someone is lying because they said they saw a Bigfoot, but you can listen to their story and you can kind of say, okay, I don't know. Does that fall into what I believe? No. Does it fall into what you believe? Maybe it does. So it's hard to tell the difference in those people, and but they're out there.
Yeah, I agree. So is there anything you'd like to tell the listeners before we close out tonight?
I would love to. I just want everybody, dirt heads are awesome.
Thank you.
Lori, you have a great show, and I do want to thank you for having me on. I've had a great time, and 2 hours just isn't enough to talk about Bigfoot. I
agree, and I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight, and I love your shows as well. I've been listening to them constantly since we hooked up, just because I wanted to just see what you're all about, and I think you're all about finding out what's going on out there. And so I think I'm going to stay tuned into your shows, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with tonight.
Yeah, it'll be, like I said, it'll be out tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. I'm sure everybody's heard of the Mitchell Townsend stuff. All the Bigfooters out there anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're familiar with this coming out. And I actually get an opportunity to interview him, which is the first interview that he's given. So I'm excited.
Congratulations. That is a big event. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Ed Brown, for being on The Dirt. Best wishes for all of your Bigfoot hunting, and everybody stay tuned for The Dirt next week, 5 to 7 p.m.
You're listening to The Patriot, 1410 AM, KMYC, Marysville, Yuba City, Roseville, Sacramento, Oroville, and Chico.
Fox News Radio, I'm Joe Chiro. Vice President Joe Biden's son, Beau, has died after